Okay, I'm going to get us started here. So let's see here. Just a couple pieces of information. I realize that still a lot of people are not aware of that there's a live stream, but there is a live stream. And so we're just going to take care of a little bit of business before we actually get into the actual today's lesson. So a couple things. One is in my on my chat and also on my webpage, my teacher webpage, I put a link to my Discord server. I would strongly suggest going to the Discord server because you will see from there you can find the schedule of what we'll be doing. So, for example, I have all of next week's schedule up. There's gonna be two live streams next week, both Tuesday and Thursday at 2 p.m. And again, that schedule is up on my Discord server, and I'll show you. I'll show in just a minute. Also, from there, you can ask questions. So you can ask questions in chat too. That's fine. But if you wanted, it might be easier in Discord because it saves it. So if you have a question, maybe like after the video is done, and I'm not obviously live streaming, you can ask a question in Discord and I'll see it. Or if you want to talk to me, if you want to ask the question verbally because it's kind of rough to ask, you know, through writing, please feel free to. So that's there. So let's actually, since I just talked about that, let's just kind of go to the Discord really quickly. And again, I did send a link out. So if you notice in the Discord for IM2, there's a thing that says IM2 questions and information. And that's where you're going to see, let's see, that's where you should be asking questions and things like that. So when I'm doing the live stream, that would be a good spot for you to kind of hang out and ask questions there, just so that I can kind of follow along. There's also a section called announcements, and in the announcements, that's where you see the schedule for the following week. So if you notice for the IM2, I'm telling you that we're going to be on Tuesday. We'll be going over the 8.2, and on Thursday we'll be going over 8.3, going through questions and stuff like that. Okay, so that's kind of the stuff that is available to you guys. Again, also there is finally I should say, there's a thing that says IM2 video links. That's where I'm going to take all these live streams and that's where I'm going to archive them on YouTube. So that if you're not here to see a live stream or you just don't like being part of the live stream, which that's totally fine, and you just want to see the video of the live stream, this is where you can go. I am going to have them on my website too, but it is quite a bit easier for me to do all this stuff in Discord. So I'd kind of prefer to get everybody moved over to Discord um, soon. Okay, that being said, let's move on to today's lesson. Okay, this first off, I want to emphasize this is a review. This is not new stuff. These are things that you have done before, but may not necessarily be comfortable with. And what is going on here? I'm hoping my thing didn't freeze. Okay, just a couple notes also. I do want to just the I've been doing this with my calculus students already, and one of the issues we've been having is the live stream does, from time to time, it does crash. And if it does, I'll start it up again, and we can still talk through Discord and things like that. But sometimes it crashes, and I have to bring it back up, and that's just kind of it is what it is. I can't do anything about that, obviously. So just be aware if you see issues with the live stream. So like if you can't hear something, let me know. So maybe it means I forgot to turn my microphone on. If it crashes and I don't notice, say something in Discord, I try keeping the live stream up on a computer without sound so that I can at least check and see if it crashed. But again, if there's any live stream issues, please in Discord let me know because otherwise I will have no idea I have no idea that there's a problem and I'll just keep on talking and talking and talking. Okay, let's begin. So this is a review of factor. We have reviewed this a few times, but this is all you're going to really need for 8.1. So the review sheet for 8.1, there's going to be three things. We're going to be going through a few things. So we're in example one, all we're going to be looking at is what happens when we have quadratics of this form and the number in front of x squared is 1. So if you notice these three examples, all the numbers in front of x squared are 1. In example 2, what we're going to do is we're going to go, when we go through, a is going to be a prime number. So it's no longer 1, but it's still a prime number, right? That means it's divisible by, I see that it's still divisible by either 1 or itself. So again, it should be, it's a prime number. And then finally, we're going to deal with some equations involving quadratics. And then the last thing we'll be doing is looking at just a couple special cases that might come up in this review sheet. Also, one last note to make before we get started. There's a 10-second broadcast delay in the live stream. So if you have a question, I may just recognize that there's a 10-second delay from when I say something to when you actually hear it. So I will pause from time to time, especially when there's lots of people on. I will pause from time to time to take questions and let the live stream catch up. Okay, that being said, let's go back to this. Let's go back to this part right here. Okay, so our job, reminder, is we're going to factor. So factoring, basically what that means is we're going to take this thing right here and we are going to break it up. So this times this, whatever that stuff is going to equal that stuff right there. And so the way we do this, we've done this a few different ways, but we're going to use what's called the guess and check method. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the first term. We're going to look at this. We're going to say, how can I break that up? What times what equals x squared? Now the nice thing, when a is a prime number like 1, there's only one option, right? The only things that can multiply to x squared are going to be x and x. That's it, right? Those are, okay, x squared and 1, but we're not going to do that. So in this case, the only things that have a factor of x in them that multiply to x squared are x and x. Okay? Second, the next thing we want to do is we want to look at the 15. Okay? And I want to think of the different ways I can factor 15. There's a couple different ways. I can factor it into 15 and 1 or 3 and 5. So I have a couple choices, and I might try out both of them. But before I start trying to factor, I'm going to kind of note that this sign is positive. And that's a big deal. Because it's positive, whatever I factor, both of the factors have to be the same sign. So for example, let's say I chose 15 and 1. Either both of my factors would have to be positive 15 and positive 1, or they'd have to be negative 15 and negative 1. The factors have to be the same. So here's what I want to do. I want to factor 15, but when I do, those factors have to add up to negative 8. Not negative 8x, excuse me, just negative 8. So if I did 15 and 1, I think you'd agree, if I tried adding 15 and 1, is there any way to make that equal to negative 8? No, right? That's just not going to work. So how about 5 and 3? Oh, 5 and 3, 5 plus 3 is 8. Okay, I can totally do that. So I'm going to break this up into 5 and 3. And again, we said because this is positive, the signs have to be the same. But note, those are positive. This is negative. The only way that can be negative is if both of these are negative. And that's it factored. And you can check yourself. So if I'm like, ooh, is that correct? Well, let's go and check ourselves. So just kind of off to the side, I'm going to go and quickly check myself to make sure this actually works. So I'm going to take x, multiply it to x, I get x squared. I'm going to take x, multiply it by negative 3, I get negative 3x. I'm going to take negative 5, multiply it to x, I get negative 5x. And then I'm going to take negative 5, multiply it to negative 3, and I get positive 15. Simplifying this, these two are like terms because they both have x. So I get x squared minus 8x plus 15. Okay, so this absolutely worked. And my answer, just to be clear, actually, let me keep that up for just a second in case anybody wants anything from there. So my answer, though, is this. That is the factored form of that first one. Okay, so now let's look at question B. Let's look at question B and see what we can do with it. So the first thing, and what I would do is I'm just going to give a little bit of time here. Not too much, because if you're watching this later on, you can pause it. But what I want you to do is to see if you can, first off, let's figure out what's going to go here and here. So in this first problem, it was x and x. So it's your turn now. What's going to go there? What times what equals x squared? after you've done that, hopefully you've said it was x and x, so I can put x and x here, right? Because x times x is x squared. Then I have to say what multiplies to 30. Now there's a lot of choices, right? So it could be, let's think about the different factors of 30 for a second. Our factors, it could be 30 and 1, it could be 15 and 2, it could be 5 and 6, it could be 3 and 10. There's a lot of different choices. But remember, it's got to add up to 11. In the end, it's got to add up to 11. So when we go through our choices, 30 and 1, no. There is no way that's going to equal 11. 15 and 2, again, no way I can take those numbers and add them or subtract them to make 11. 10 and 3, nope, right? Because so it doesn't work. 5 and 6, oh yeah, 5 plus 6 is 11, right? So it's going to be 5 and 6. But let's figure out our signs now. So remember, we look at this. This is positive. Because this is positive, it means whatever we're going to be looking at are both our numbers are going to have the same sign. They're either going to be both negative or they're going to be both positive. So we go to this. This is positive, so these must both be positive. Okay, so from there, if you have any questions so far, feel free to ask them in the chat. Otherwise, we will move on to question C. And I'm just going to pause for a few seconds to let this stream catch up. Okay, so now what you should do is you should take C and see what you can do with it. Okay, obviously you're going to get plenty of practice, so you've got the worksheet where you can do plenty of practice. But let's take C and see what you can do with it. So I'm gonna, if you're watching this later, you should pause this video. Otherwise, I'm just gonna give a little bit of time. I don't want to give too much time because then it's just kind of dead air. But I'm gonna give a little bit of time for you to kind of see what you can do in terms of factoring this. Let's say about 15 seconds. Okay, then let's see what we can do. So again, I'm going to be breaking this up. And I'm going to start with this term. I'm going to say what times what equals x squared. And again, there's only one choice. It's got to be x and x. Next, I'm going to look at this term, the negative 24. And I'm going to say what multiplies to negative 24. Now, because it's negative, one of the numbers has to be positive. One of the numbers has to be negative. We don't know which, but one of them's got to be positive and one of them's got to be negative. Now, we got a whole lot of choices for 24, right? So for things that multiply to 24, we got 24 and 1, we got 12 and 2, we got 6 and 4, 3 and 8. Am I missing anything? I don't think I am. 2 and, oh, no, I did 2 and 12. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to say, okay, one of these has got to be positive, one of these got to be negative, but when I add them, right, or I subtract them, these numbers, I should get 2. So let's see. 24 and 1, not going to work, right? No way I can make 2. 12 and 2, not going to work. 6 and 4, yeah, 6 minus 4 is 2. That's going to work. How about 3 and 8? Let's just double check it. Nope, 3 and 8 aren't going to make it. So my numbers are going to be 6 and 4. Now, one of these numbers, as we said, has to be positive. One of them has to be negative. So let's see if we can figure out which. Well, it could be that I took positive 6 and I added negative 4. But if I did that, and I did that, right, positive 6 plus negative 4, that would be equal to positive 2, which is what we wanted. What if I done it the other way, though? Would it work? Let's see. If I took negative 6 and I added positive 4, what would I get? I'd get negative 2, which is not what I want. So in other words, the 6 has got to be positive, the 4 has got to be negative. Okay? That is that one. See if you have any questions, and I'll kind of let it pause for about 5 seconds and let it catch up. Okay, then let's move on. So while these look a bit harder, God, this is just a little bit off. Give me just a second. I'm trying to center this so it looks better for you guys. Okay, so while this looks a little bit harder, I want, because A is something other than 1, it's actually not much harder. So think of like the first one we did is like a level 1. It's the easiest type we can do. This is a level 2, and the reason it's a level 2 is A, while it's not 1, it's still a prime number. In other words, there's only going to be one set of factors that can multiply to it. And here's what I mean. So let's look at the first one. So I'm going to break this up again. I'm going to try finding out what multiplies. And this is going to be definitely a little bit harder. I do want to emphasize this is definitely a little bit harder, but it's not like crazy hard. So let's see what we got. So I want to take 3x squared and I want to factorize. I want to again say, what can I multiply? What multiplies by something else? What two things multiply together equal 3x squared? Well, I'm going to really worry about the 3. We already know x times x is x squared, so it's a 3 that's the issue, right? There's only two things that multiply to 3. That's 3 and 1. So I can say 3x and 1x, or we can just call 1x x, right? 3x times x equals x squared. Perfect. Now, we have to be a little bit careful on this next part. Once we've taken care of that, we've got to take the 10, just like before, right? And we got to think, what are the factors of 10? So our factors of 10 are 10 and 1, 2 and 5, and that's it. And again, from the last one, we know whatever our factors are going to be, they're both going to be the same sign. So let's, again, look at our middle sign, and we'll notice that's negative. Since that is negative, both of our values are going to have to be negative. So it's going to have to be negative 10, negative 1, or negative 2, negative 5. So this is where it gets a little harder. So I'm just going to plug these in and see what happens. This method is called the guess and check method. The more practice you do with the guess and check method, the faster you get. In fact, it is the fastest method you can use, but it takes a little practice and getting used to. So here's what I mean by that. So off to the side, I'm going to just literally guess and check. So I'm going to take these two numbers and plug them in. I'm going to plug in negative 10. I'm going to plug in negative 1. Let's see when I FOIL that out, or I multiply that out, do I get that? So let's see. First off, if we have found these numbers correctly, then checking it is really easy. All I need to do is multiply this times this and this times this, then add them. Okay, as long as I have found these numbers correctly, then those are the only two things I need to multiply. I need to multiply the outer terms together and the inner terms, and then add them together or subtract them. So let's see. 3x times negative 1 is negative 3x. Negative 10 times x is negative 10x. Adding those together, I get negative 13x. And the question is, did I want negative 13x? And the answer is no. Actually, I have messed up here. I just realized that I've messed up here. So I'm going to scratch that for a second. And I did make a big mistake. Hopefully, maybe you guys saw the mistake. If you didn't, let's kind of go back, because I definitely made a mistake. So no, I shouldn't say that. I didn't make a mistake. I'm good. It's just a little awkward. Sorry. No mistakes made. This was good. Okay, so that didn't work. But now you might be saying, well, what if we had switched it? What if instead of being 3x minus 10, what if it had been 3x minus 1 and x minus 10, right? That's reasonable. That might work. Let's check it again. So I'm going to take my values. I'm going to take my outers, multiply them together. I'm going to take my inners, multiply them together. So 3x times negative 10 is negative 30x. Negative 1 times x is negative x. That still doesn't equal negative 17. So this one, there is no combination of negative 10 and negative 1 that work. Okay? So now it's got to be negative 2 and negative 5, but I just got to figure out how it's put together. So let's see what we can do. Where's my delete? There's my delete. So now it's either going to be, there's two choices only. It's either going to be 3x minus 2 and x minus 5, or it's going to be 3x minus 5 and x minus 2. That's it. These are my two choices. It's got to be one of these. So let's go and quickly find out which one it is. And again, I'm doing this on paper, but a lot of times you can do this in your head. So 3x times negative 5 and negative 2 times x. So let's see. 3x times negative 5 is negative 15x. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. These two added together are negative 17x. That's exactly what we want. So we're done here. So we can say our answer is negative 2 minus 5. So 3x minus 2, x minus 5. Again, this is the guess and check method. It's not the way I originally taught it. And the reason is, in the end, it will be faster. It is, like I said before earlier, it is the fastest and the most straightforward method. While it can maybe be a little harder at first to get used to, if you practice this method, I promise you, it does get fast. The key, you just have to be good at multiplication. Okay? So, that being said, try letter B. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of pause here for a little bit. Not much, like let's say 15, 20 seconds. I know that's probably not enough time. But I'm gonna pause here for like 15, 20 seconds. Of course, if you have a question, this would be a really good time to ask a question. I do want to remind you, I'm gonna go into the voice channel, the general voice channel. So if you do have a question in the general voice, please feel free to ask. You can also ask a question in the IM2 questions and information channel, okay? But if you don't have a question, just be kind of working on this one. Or of course, sorry, one more time, you can also ask a question in the chat, in the stream chat. Okay, let's see what we can do. So let's take this next one. I'm gonna move, no, I guess I'm okay. So first off, let's look at that 7x squared. So we know this is gonna break up into two things. And the nice thing again about 7x squared, there is only one choice, right? It can only be 7x and x. Those are the only two things that multiply to 7x squared. So that's nice and that's really great. Also notice, we're kind of lucky on this one. This one's actually, B is actually easier than A because there's only one way that 3 can factor, right? It's either gonna be, it's gonna be 3 and 1. That's it. Our only two choices are 3 and 1. The only thing we have to decide now is, where does the 3 go? Is the 3 gonna go here, or is the 3 gonna go here, right? And then the 1 will go in the other place. That's our only piece that we really have to figure out here. So let's go and see what we can do. But before we do, we should check our signs. What are our signs going to be? Well, this is positive, so the signs have to be the same. So we look at this, we say that's negative, so both of them have to be negative. So we have to have, our answers have to be -3 and -1. So let's test it out. So I'm going to do 7x minus 3 and x minus 1, or my other option is 7x minus 1 and x minus 3. So going through my check, I'm going to multiply these two together and these two together, see what they add up to. So 7x times -1 is -7x. -3 times x is -10x. Perfect. Got it on the first try. Except for the fact that -3 times x, I had this in my head. So -3 times x is -3x, not -10x. I did the math in my head a little bit ahead of time. So that's -10x. Like I said, that is exactly what we wanted. So our answer has to be 7x minus 3, x minus 1. And again, you might be saying, well, what about the other one? Did the other one work? Well, let's check. So taking these two, 7x times -3 is -21x. -1 times x is -x. Clearly, those two don't add up to -10. Okay? Last one, letter C. Last one for this section. There's still a couple more sections that we have to do. Last one for this section. Again, this one's of today's, this is the hardest right here. This is definitely the hardest one. See what you can do. I'll give about 15, 20 seconds. And again, if you have a question, please ask it in stream or ask it in Discord. Okay, let's see what we can do here. So 5x squared, again, there's only one choice, right? That's a prime, 5 is a prime number, so it can only be 5x and x. That's perfect, but 12 is kind of rough. And the reason is, let's think about our values. It could be 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. I don't know, I wrote 2 and 0, 2 and 6. I guess it's not terrible. It could have been worse. We got 3 different options. Okay, let's see what we can do here. Now, well, okay, again, let's just see what we can do here. So first off, we should look at this and we say, okay, that's negative. So whatever happens, one of our values is going to be positive, one of the values are going to be negative. In other words, we'll be subtracting our two things. So let's move this up. Now, like I said, the better you get at this, the more you kind of instinctively try things that you feel might be better. And I know that's not like a great way of saying that, but what I mean by that is some things you can kind of eliminate right off the bat pretty quickly. But if you're not comfortable with that, then just try it out. So let's see. I'm going to go, let's see about 5x x, and let's do, how about 12? I'll put 12 and 1 here. I'm not going to even put the signs. I know one of them's going to be positive. I know one of them's going to be negative. I think you'd agree that can't work. And the reason is 5 times 12 is 60. Way too big. Okay, so I know that's not going to work. So what if I switched the 1 and the 12? So this became a 1, this became a 12. Well, let's see what happens. 5 times 1 is 5. 12 times x is 12. 5 plus 12 is, okay, that looks pretty good. Let's check and see if that works. Now, just because it looks pretty good doesn't mean it is going to be good. So one of these has got to be positive, one of these has got to be negative. Well, let's check. Let's check what happens here. Does this work? Well, multiplying this together, I get 5x, and the other one I get negative 12x. Oh, that didn't work. That's negative, right? That's going to be negative 7x. What if I switched it? Would it work? If I made this, uh-oh, I forgot what I did. Was this positive and this negative? I'm going to say it was. But I think you'd notice neither way I'm going to do this is going to work. I was kind of hopeful that it was going to work. I did forget which ones I did. I may have done the same one, but it's not going to work either way. So it looked at first like it was going to work, but it didn't work. Okay, so let's try a couple other numbers. Let's try 2 and 6. So since it's 2 and 6, I'm going to put the 6 here and the 2 here, right? And the reason being is if the 6 was here, I'd get a 30. That's not going to work. So let's try that. So if we do that, let's make this positive, let's make that negative. We get negative 10 and positive 6. Oh, that's not going to work. And if I change the signs, it's still not going to work. Make sure you notice if I change the signs, so if I made this negative and this positive, right? That's going to be positive 10, negative 6, not going to work. Okay, so it's got to be 3 and 4. If this thing factors, 3 and 4 are going to be my factors. So let's see what happens. I'm going to put 3 here and 4 here. So let's see. If I make this one negative and I make this one positive, let's see what happens. Take these two, multiply them together. 5x times negative 4 is negative 20x. 3 times x is 3x. Added together is negative 17x. That is absolutely my answer. So I get this. Now you might say, well, how did you know? Was it just luck? Was it just luck that I did +3 there and -4 there? The positive, negative, and it wasn't really. Because again, I was kind of thinking in my head, I was going, I want this thing to be negative, so I want to make sure that my negative value is larger. In other words, notice this one, the negative one is bigger than the positive one, so my end result would be negative. Again, do you have to do that thinking? No. It's just as you get better at this, these are some things you think about. Okay, let's see if they're in chat, see if there's any questions that you have, because if not, we're going to move on to a couple equations involving this stuff. This, by the way, that's as hard as it gets today. We're going to do some equations and stuff with this, but this is as hard as it gets today. Also, if you've been factoring another way and you're like, you know what, I can factor the other way, this other way, and I'm great at it, feel free to continue doing that. There are lots of methods of factoring. This is just one of them. I've even shown you different methods of factoring. Okay, so this is just one. You don't have to do it my way. But if you like it and you're not comfortable with the other way, then do this way. Okay, let's move on. Now what we're going to do is solve equations with factoring. So in order to solve equations with factoring, what we're going to want to do is we're going to set one side equal to 0. So in this case, what I'm going to, oh, that's not showing. I'm going to let this catch up. Okay. So since I want to set one side equal to 0, I'm going to move that 15 over. So I'm going to get 2x squared minus 2x minus 15 equals 0. From there, we're going to take the left-hand side and we're going to factor it, just like we were doing in the ones that were above. Okay, no difference. We're just going to go through and factor this. So I'm going to go through and let's see what happens here. But it's still going to be equal to 0. So I'm going to take that 2x and I'm going to break it up into 2x and x. And now I'm going to take that 15 and I'm going to have to break it up. So let's see, 15. Well, there's lots of different things it could be. It could be 15, 1, 5, or 3. Well, that's actually it. So let's. How about I try 5 and 3? Let's try 5 and 3. What if this was 5 and no, I don't think that's going to work. Well, let's just check. Let's just check. If this was 5 and this was 3, well, these two multiplied together would be 6. The other one would be 5. Nope, that's not going to work. So let's switch them. What happens if we go, uh-oh, I really got to pay a little more attention. I'm just kind of, I don't always, I kind of miss it sometimes. So let's see, let's try that out. Okay, that would be 10 and that would be 3. That's not going to work either. What did I do? I know it's not 15 and 1. I wonder if I made a mistake. Let's check it really quickly. So my negative 15. 2 times 3 is 6. 1 times, oh wait. I think I did make a mistake. I did make a mistake. Let's try that again. Let's switch this up again. I think I made a mental error there. So let's make this 5 and let's make this 3. I think I did make a mistake. 15, 6 and 5 does not work. And then 10 and 3 are not going to work. What am I missing here? I thought this factored. Now, one of the things you can do, if you're like, ooh, does it work? Does it not? Let's check. So this kind of brings up a good one. So I'm going to go double check really quickly because I'm not seeing it right off the bat, and I don't know why I'm not seeing it. But it may not, maybe it just doesn't work. And if it doesn't work, then this was just a bad problem for today. So what I'm going to do is, and this is what we've done before, so let's get rid of this, is I'm going to take this first number, just this number right here, and I'm going to multiply it to this number. So 2 times negative 15 is negative 30. And then I'm going to put the negative 2, the b value, here. So I need to find two numbers that multiply to negative 30 and add to negative 2. So let's see. 30 and 1? No. 2 and 15? No. 3 and 10? No. 6 and 5? No. So since there were no factors that worked, then this problem currently can't be solved. It was a bad example. In fact, I'm kind of sad that I gave you guys a bad example. I might go through and do a better one. Let's see if we can fix this one real quick to give a better example, because this is just a bad question. So I'm going to make a quick question here. Unfortunately, making it in front of you means you're going to know the answer right off the bat, but that's fine. So I'm going to take 2x minus 3x plus 5. Let's see what that is. So we get 2x squared plus 6x minus 3x minus 15. So we get 2x squared plus 3x minus 15. Perfect. So I'm going to say 2x squared plus 3x equals 15. I'm just going to double check my work really quickly, make sure that I didn't make any mistakes while I did this, since I did on that last one. 2x times, I did make a mistake. I can't multiply. That's what's going on, is I can't multiply. So 2x times x is x squared. 2x times 5 is 10x. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x. Wow. Negative 3x. And then negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. So this is going to be 2x squared plus 7x minus 15. Okay, let's go from there. That's embarrassing, but we can chalk it up to live stream jitters. Okay, let's take this problem. We know where it's going, but let's do it again. So step 1, we set one side equal to 0. Step 2, we factor. We take that left-hand side and we factor it. So again, the only way 2x can factor is 2x and x. Now we take the 15, and again, either 15 is going to be either 15 and 1 or 2 and 3. And we kind of, in this case, yeah, we know where this is going. Sorry, 3 and 5. I don't know why I said 2 and 3. So we know where this is going, so I'm going to cheat it a little bit. I'm going to put a 5 here, and I'm going to put a 3 here. Since this is negative, right, our signs are going to be different. One of them is going to be positive, one of them is going to be negative. And we get this. So let's double check it real quick. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times 5 is 10x. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x. Negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. Simplifying it, those two combined, we get 7x and negative 15. Perfect. This is exactly what we want. The last thing we do, and there is a last step. This is an equation, right? It equals 0. So what we do is we say either 2x minus 3 equals 0, or x plus 5 equals 0, and we solve these equations. So our answer is either x equals 3 halves or x equals negative 5. Okay? So again, my apologies for the mistake in the question before, but hopefully the process makes sense. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask in chat. Otherwise, let's do question B, see what you can do with it. Again, I'll give let's say about 15 seconds. I know not enough time. I'm going to keep on repeating that, not enough time, but I do got to keep the video semi-short, and it's already gone on for 40 minutes. Okay, let's see what we can do. So again, step 1. What you should have done in step 1 is set one side equal to 0. You want to make sure the terms are going in degree order, from highest degree to lowest degree. So exponents, right? So it goes x squared, x constant. Okay? So I moved everything over. Next, I'm going to factor. So something times something equals 0. Well, we take the x and we break it up. X times x equals x squared. Perfect. Now we're going to take that 42 and break it up. Let's see. So 42, there's a lot of factors of 42. 42 and 1, 42 and 1, 2 and 21, 6 and 7, think that's it. No, that's not true. There's 3 and 14, 3 and 14. Is that right? I think so. 30, 12, 42. Yeah, 3 and 14. Is there anything else? There may be something else. I may be missing something. But here's the thing. I know I want this value to be, ignoring the negative for just a second, I know I want it to be 13. So I know these numbers can't be too far apart. Like 42 and 1 are super far apart. So I can pretty much ignore 42 and 1, and I can probably ignore 2 and 21 because they're also far apart. So here's a kind of a general rule, a general hint. If this number is small, negative 13 is semi-small. If it's kind of small, then the numbers are going to be fairly close together. Whatever your factors are going to be fairly close together. If it's large, so let's say that number had been like 40, then I'd probably be looking for numbers that are further apart, like 42 and 1. Okay, so my thought is it's either going to be 6 and 7 or 3 and 14. So let's try 6 and 7, remembering that this is positive. So I'm going to put a 6 here and a 7 here. Well, let's see. The signs have to be the same. And in this case, since it was positive, they both have to be, and this is negative, they both have to be negative. So let's see if that works. X times x is x squared. X times negative 6 is negative 6x. Negative 7 times x is negative 7x. Negative 7 times negative 6 is positive 42. So this is x squared minus 13x plus 42. Perfect. It's exactly what we wanted. Okay, I'm going to move that over there. It's exactly what we wanted. So this works. So what we can do is we can say either x minus 7 equals 0 or x minus 6 equals 0. And we get x equals 7 or x equals 6. Okay. So what you should be doing now, I do have some special cases. I'm going to hold off on the special cases for today. I will hit them on Tuesday. So I'll be doing another live stream Tuesday at 2 p.m. for this class. I'm going to hit those special cases on Tuesday. There's going to probably be a couple questions at 8.1 they're going to have difficulty with. But you should be able to, at this point, do most of 8.1. Those special cases will take care of all, like I said, on Monday. I've kind of thrown a lot at you guys, and I don't want to overload. So I'm going to just wait here for a couple, like 5 seconds or so, see if you have any questions. If not, I'll then end the stream. Also, because I have another stream coming up at 3, and I want to get that ready. So again, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask in chat. Otherwise, I thank you for your time, and I will hopefully see you on Tuesday. Okay, I'm going to end it. Again, thank you for your time.